Historical context and central idea of the poem. A Far Cry from Africa. Historical context. Derek Walcott's A Far Cry from Africa, published in 1962, is a painful and jarring depiction of ethnic conflict and divided loyalties. The opening images of the poem are drawn from accounts of the Mau Mau uprising, an extended and bloody battle during the 1950s between European settlers and the native Kikuyu tribe in what is now the Republic of Kenya. In the early 20th century, the first white settlers arrived in the region, forcing the Kikuyu people off of their tribal lands. Europeans took control of farmland and the government, relegating the Kikuyu to a subservient position. One faction of the Kikuyu people formed Mau Mau, a terrorist organization intent on purging all European influence from the country, but less strident Kikuyus attempted to either remain neutral or help the British defeat Mau Mau. The ongoings in Kenya magnified an internal strife within the poet concerning his own mixed heritage. Walcott has both African and European roots. His grandmothers were both black, and both grandfathers were white. In addition, at the time the poem was written, the poet's country of birth, the island of St. Lucia, was still a colony of Great Britain. While Walcott opposes colonialism and would therefore seem to be sympathetic to a revolution with an anti-colonial cause, he has passionate reservations about Mau Mau. They are or are reported to be extremely violent to animals, whites, and Kikuyu perceived as traitors to the Mau Mau cause. As Walcott is divided in two, so too is the poem. The first two stanzas refer to the Kenyan conflict, while the second two address the war within the poet as outsider-insider, between his roles as a blood insider and a geographical outsider to the Mau Mau uprising. The Mau Mau uprising, which began in 1952, was put down, some say in 1953, 1956, or 1960, without a treaty, yet the British did leave Kenya in 1963. Just as the uprising was never cleanly resolved, Walcott, at least within the poem, never resolves his conflict about whose side to take. Central idea of A Far Cry from Africa. A Far Cry from Africa occurs in Derek Walcott's collection In a Green Night. The poem explains the conflicts of the poet's European and African ancestry. The poem describes how violence and racial prejudice spewed blood throughout the land. The poet remembers the Mau Mau uprising when he thinks of the incidents of the Kikuyu people. When he looks back at the tawny pelt of Africa, he remembers the Mau Mau uprising in Kenya and he is unable to fully sympathize with any one side. He sees both enemies as murderers who have strewn dead bodies across a beautiful land and brought death to a veritable Eden. Form and tone of the poem is written in free verse. It is presented in two stanzas, one consisting of 21 lines and the other consisting of 11. It does not follow a strict rhyming pattern, although end rhymes feature prominently throughout the poem. The effect of this is that the poem has a stilted, disjointed feel which mirrors the feelings expressed within the poem. The rhythm is also inconsistent, although the line lengths are similar, the beats in each line alter, which again adds to the sense of discord. The poem is deeply rooted in Africa. The language used helps to make the poem feel culturally African.